Let me read to you a passage from the 24th chapter of St. Matthew's Gospel, verses 37 to 44. It's the Gospel for the first Sunday of Advent, Year A. And in it our Lord refers to being prepared for the judgment of God. St. Matthew writes, Jesus said to his disciples, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. In those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day that Noah entered the ark. They did not know until the flood came and carried them all away. So will it be also at the coming of the Son of Man. 2 men will be out in the field, one will be taken, the other will be left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken, the other will be left. Therefore, stay awake, for you do not know on which day your Lord will come. Be sure of this, if the master of the house had known the hour of night when the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not let his house be broken into. So too, you also must be prepared, for at an hour you do not expect the Son of Man will come." Well, that's from Matthew chapter 24, verses 37 to 44. And what does it suggest to us? Well, it is very striking the number of times in the Gospels that our Lord either directly or indirectly refers to his coming to judge mankind. He stresses time and again that each person must prepare himself for this judgment. As he says at the end of our Gospel passage today, you also must be prepared, for at an hour you do not expect the Son of Man will come. He refers to the days of Noah, saying that in like manner will it be at the coming of the Son of Man. In those days before the flood, he says, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, up to the day that Noah entered the ark. They did not know until the flood came and carried them all away. So will it be also at the coming of the Son of Man. And our Lord, in drawing on Old Testament temporal events to illustrate what will happen in the fullness of time, intimates also that we can draw on patterns of events in life to help us to realize what is certainly to come. A hurricane suddenly arises and catches whole towns, or even a great city entirely unprepared. It could be a massive earthquake or a great fire or a sudden epidemic. For the individual, it could be a sudden heart attack or robbery. Sudden catastrophes for which people are unprepared are a reminder of the coming of the Son of Man, which may happen at an hour you do not expect, our Lord says. So too, the numerous situations in life when a person is called to account are a reminder of the great reckoning that faces every person who has lived or will live. A student knows he will face exams at the end of his semester or year, and yet he becomes distracted and lethargic. The exams come upon him, and he is caught unprepared. So our Lord says, stay awake. That Christ will come to judge the living and the dead is absolutely certain. What is entirely uncertain are the time and the circumstances of his coming, either to the individual or to the human race. Warnings such as these prompt us to remember and meditate on Christian and Catholic teaching on the judgment of God. At death, each person is judged by Christ, who is constituted by the Father to be the judge of the living and the dead. There are 2 points here. Firstly, each individual will be judged after he dies on all that he did during life. One's own responsibility for being the person one is, and one's own responsibility for all that one chose to do or not to do, will not be able to be evaded. Nothing will be passed over, and the sentence will come. The person will then enter into the happiness of heaven immediately, or after an appropriate purification in purgatory, or alternatively will enter into the eternal damnation of hell. Ultimately, what faces every individual who has enjoyed the gift of life is either heaven or hell. There will be no alternative to this. There will be no escape into the oblivion of nothingness or an eternal sleep. It will be either unending happiness or unending misery. And either way, it will be the retribution for the way one has chosen to live. The second point is that it is Jesus Christ who will judge all. So, Hindus, Buddhists, atheists, agnostics, those who have never heard of Christ, or who have scarcely given him a thought, together of course with all Christians, will be judged by him. All will appear before the judgment seat of Jesus Christ. Muhammad has come before him, as has Buddha, Confucius, the Caesars, the popes and kings of history, and all the great and unknown people, all the little people who have come and gone. Jesus Christ is the judge of the living and the dead. This is Christian dogma. Moreover, this individual judgment by God of each person's freely chosen thoughts, words and deeds will be confirmed eventually by a second general judgment on the whole human race when Christ comes again. So, Christ will come as judge at the death of each person, and he will come again as judge at the end of time to judge the living and the dead, or to confirm the judgment already made. The point of our gospel passage today, though, is that we must all live in such a way as to be always ready, prepared. The most important event in the future is the divine judgment on each person at his death, and on the whole human race at the very end. The judge will be none other than Jesus Christ. What we must do then is to live as his friends, showing our love for him by keeping his commandments. This is the key to life. For those who do not know him, they will be judged on their conscience, on their goodness of life. When he will come, we do not know. As he himself says, it could be sudden. So, let us be prepared.